Hey, AJ from the Moto Academy here. Seattle Supercross. Didn't rain somehow. Every year I've ever raced there, it rained, and it rained a lot. So I think it was cold though. This one I got to watch from the comfort of my couch, which I tell you what, the older I get, the more I enjoy it. But I'm going to give you guys a breakdown from a racer's perspective, somebody that is normally at these races, and a riding coach's perspective. So hopefully what this does is it creates a little bit of an explanation as to why these things are happening, or maybe the thought process as to what's causing a certain situation, and hopefully just altogether a different type of breakdown than you would normally see. This channel is brand new, so if you want to subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for all the support across all of the other channels, the AJ Catanzaro channel, the Moto Academy podcast clips channel. This one is brand new, so subscribing would be awesome. Okay, we're gonna dive right in. Jett made a comment, I think, at the press conference, or maybe it was just privately to cameraman Cam, that he was disappointed in his decision making because he thought maybe he moved from one end of the track to the other, or maybe Jett thought that he went to the wrong side of the track. But in watching that clip, I really wouldn't put any of that blame on Jett, I don't think. Ooh, wow, that was kind of close. I don't remember that happening. Jett is a really heads-up racer, and what's nice is that he is fast enough that he's able to operate at a level to where he's not racing in desperation. He's racing very, very calculated and thinking about what he's doing. I'm going to play this from the beginning so we can see this crash here, where I think McAdoo is forced to, unfortunately, ride 100%. All he has, all the time, to be able to be anywhere close to Jett, which I mean, for him to even be anywhere close to Jett, props to him, because Jett's riding fantastic. So tripling on right behind a guy in this situation here is risky because there's just not much room to work with. It, honestly, from this angle, looks like he's going to triple on and land right on him. And then making the decision, once you do that, you can jump 3 on and then decide to back off. And it just was the wrong decision, I think, to go off of this. He could have checked up, braked, and rolled off. From the looks of it, Jett held his line really well. He's middle left here. He lands middle left. So if you look at where he is on the landing with about a bike length to the tough block, that's pretty much exactly where he's taking off. So his trajectory is predictable here, right? That's kind of what I base this off of. And he was frustrated, and understandably so, because thank goodness he's good at crashing. Number one, Jett. Like, look at how he did perfect front flip. Nice tuck. Almost could have landed on his feet. He's just lucky that there wasn't another bike coming through this way. I guess the benefit is that no matter what, basically, everybody was going 2-3 or 2-2, meaning that they would be jumping over this lane. So he was pretty safe from that either way. I guess that's all to say about that. I could understand Jett's immediate frustration, but you gotta make that pass, Jett, and go 3 on, I guess. Is that the solution? I don't know. Okay. What do we have here? Politelli. This is the LCQ, which, by the way, let me pause it. The broadcast for the coverage of this 250 LCQ was making me so angry because I could tell just by looking at the thing on the left and what was starting to shape up in the background, what was going on and how good of a race this was, and they just weren't showing it. They were missing things. They weren't talking about it. I would have been so furious if I were these guys and wanting to watch this back after the fact, and they just didn't really show much of anything. I believe that this pass Austin Politelli on Jerry Robin was for the last transfer spot. I'm pretty sure. On potentially the last lap or maybe a lap to go. Let's play this through in real speed one more time. Or I guess this is okay. Now let's talk about it. So if you are in the 4th transfer spot, let's assume if you guys watch this channel, you know that anything statistics, or if we're trying to get accurate results, I'm not the guy. So if he's not in 4th, I apologize ahead of time. But if he is, we're going to assume that this situation is based on Jerry being in 4th. The thing is, it's not the last turn, so you can't ride extremely defensive in every situation, or you're just going to simply get straight up just passed around the outside. So Jerry does the right thing here. He lands pretty far inside, placing himself so there's not much room on the entry. Charges pretty fast to the corner. I mean, Politelli's really using all that real estate of this turn. There's no way this is not going to be a super aggressive pass, but he cuts down as he's getting to Jerry's line. So they make contact, but it's pretty gentle. And you can tell it's gentle enough and was done right on Politelli's end, because there's not much of a reaction on him. He just kind of goes about his business, and then Jerry goes off the track. So I think Jerry was mad based on the reaction after this, but if that was a pass for the final transfer spot, that was really well done. Really well done. Actually, honestly, perfectly executed by Politelli. Politelli is a very good rider as well. Underrated. Ton of bike skill. All right, 250 main. Always interesting watching Jett navigate these situations, because let's just face it, he's just better than these guys right now by a large margin. So, and I say that objectively. So it's just interesting to see how he is very patient, and he tries to make smart passes to where he won't be put in danger. But shout out Robertson here, did a great job on these opening laps. Yeah, this is 10 minutes left on the counter, so that means he hung on for the first 5 minutes, which is great. I think this is where he explodes himself in the whoops, potentially. Nope, that's going to be this next clip here. Ouch. The tricky thing about these whoops, let's see if we get another angle here that we could watch a little better. You could tell watching the night show that the first 5 or 6 looked very easy, and that's why they were turned into jumpers immediately, because they were shallow enough. But the last 3, they were hanging guys up the whole night. Cartwright crashing them really bad. You watch Jett a couple of times, his knees fly to the front, and they kind of snagged him a little bit. So dropping the front end in like that, well, let's see what went wrong. So, okay, he's jumping. So he's trying to go... Honestly, I don't know what he was trying to do there, because he's not doubling it, but he's also nowhere close to tripling it. So the double landing is here. I know it's hard to see, but you can kind of see it there. He overshoots the double landing, wheelies, intentionally so, which this is odd. This is a bad decision. He's trying to now wheelie over this one, which is naturally going to drop the front end low. Well, it doesn't yet. It actually, he got lucky in that situation. But now it makes him miss this one. Be completely sideways. His weight's off the back, and he's hitting low with the handlebars turned. This one actually looks extremely similar to the Deegan crash at Indy. And then look at how quickly it explodes him off. I mean, he had no chance of saving that at that point. And ouch. That looked like it hurt. Hopefully he's okay. I guess he landed, you know, all things considered, probably in a good spot in his body, kind of mid-back like that. Again, it probably hurt like crazy. I'm sure he could have still broken some bones, but overall, maybe a good spot to land on your body in that situation. The fear is always when you're going over the bars that the bike's going to get you, number one, which it did, and then you're going to land in a precarious situation on your head and or neck. So to avoid that situation, you just have to not take for granted the first 5 or 6 whoops, and knowing that the last 3 are bigger, you have to put yourself in a situation where you're hitting the top of every single whoop, and you're keeping that bike on a straight line, consistently hitting each whoop. Because if you start doing what he did, which was rush the process, then we end up in a teeter-totter effect by the time we get to the last 3, which is where it matters. All right, next clip. This is the main with 2 to go. I don't even remember watching this, to be honest. Hampshire on McAdoo. Wow. Really well done. And that decision was not made until last second. Hampshire coming in way on the right here. He was maybe anticipating that this was an option, but I bet you he didn't see the opportunity opening up the way it did. Wow. Or maybe he did, because he made an immediate decision to just cut and to go for it. Whew. I mean, that was a heck of a pass. Clean. Leaving. There's room. There's room up here. There's not much, but there's room. So that, I mean, that's actually a textbook pass. And McAdoo handles it well. He doesn't see it until last second. Tries to keep his leg out of the way a little bit, although his leg should have probably gone to the foot peg instead of getting dragged back like that. But well done. The double-double in the finish line looked kind of fun too, off topic. But Whoa, man. I remember watching this in real time and going, I don't know. Sexton has so much nerve to thread the needle like that in the landing of a jump, and then just places himself where there's not any room next to Anderson of all people. And I was happy to see that. You love to see a guy that's that aggressive, and always Anderson and Barcia are always on the right side of the takeout, meaning that they're the guy that somehow slams somebody super aggressive, and they're always the one that doesn't go down, it seems. So it's cool to see Anderson get taken out pretty clean like that for once. The reason why it happened, though, it's hard to say. It's almost like when Sexton squeezed himself in there, it's like he just, maybe something made contact with Anderson's foot peg and it compressed the bike down. But it seemed like, and he definitely made contact with the elbow, or maybe it was the handlebar that did it. Because you can tell right there, yeah, that elbow and handlebar, I think it just pushed the bars out of his hands and kind of sent him this way. Well done. The big risk here, this is less of a risk in the corner. To me, the big risk of this whole thing was the placement of where he went on Anderson right here. This jump, going into a right-hander, knowing guys are fading from left to right, I would never jump to the right of somebody here. I just wouldn't trust them enough. So this requires a high level of trust and a whole lot of cojones, because that is not much room to work with. I mean, that is impressive. And to just make it look that casual, Anderson still somehow hits the inside line. There's no contact at all made. Whew. That's impressive. But maybe a little too risky for Sexton to have placed himself there. Now, it made it so that he had a good passing opportunity in that next corner. Yes, I guess sometimes that's what you need to do. Personally, I know I'm in the back of the pack in these main events, and that's exactly why, because I make conservative decisions like that. But that's pretty high risk. For you guys, for the relatable viewer and listener, that's not a jump you'd want to go to the right side of somebody on, because the natural flow of the track is from left to right. You don't want to usually place yourself in that side that everybody's naturally flowing to. Then we got Kevin Moranz just leading the main event. Sexton tried to pass him. He passed Sexton back around the outside. He whole shot the heat race and the main. And the way I explained this to cameraman Cam on the podcast is he was like, oh, I wish that didn't happen because I would have loved to see how long he would have stayed up there. And what I said immediately is Kevin would have faded back like a ton of bricks, and that's fine. It's his first ever whole shot in a main event. Are you going to fade from first to 10th in the matter of 2 laps? Probably. But that's totally okay, because next time you do it, maybe you lead for 2 laps, or maybe you stay in top 5 for 3 laps. And you can kind of get more and more used to that pace, more used to the guys coming around you. That doesn't happen in just one try for a guy like that that's usually in the past making main events from the LCQ. So if anything, it's probably good that it happened this way, that he let it until he flew off the track. So for him, that's kind of like, ooh, I'm hungry for more. I know that sounds crazy, but mentally, from the rider's perspective, being inside their head, I think that it's good the way that played out. All right, final clip here. Sexton's crash. Did we see it coming? I don't know. I kind of did, to be honest. I hate to say it. And the reason I did, and I'll let this keep playing through as I'm explaining, is they had the camera on him quite a bit. I was watching him in the lead. I was watching Tomac. And when Tomac passed into second place, I'm like, okay, this is the test. Because Tomac looked like he was in beast mode. But Sexton, when they had him on the camera, looked like he was flowing perfectly. And I'm like, this is the test. And when he got into second, it stayed at 3-second gap between the two of them until he went down. And that was the sign, like, okay, cool. Tomac in beast mode, Sexton still has him covered, at least dead even. And in watching him, I'm like, he's not overriding. There's not a section of the track where I think he has a bad line. Now, and in my head, I thought this. I'm like, now just don't rush it. Don't feel the need to override for no reason. And in my mind, this is just making a slightly bad decision. He's trying to open up the turn. He's entering what looks like a little bit too wide, right? And he's trying to make a pivot off of nothing. I don't see anything there to really hold a guy in. You can see the main line. Looks like it's beginning here, right? So if this is a little greasy, a little slippery, or there's just no berm there, period, it's very difficult to try and make any type of aggressive pivot off of nothing to get into this line. So as much as you want to open a turn up, sometimes you're limited on that. You're going to have to enter where my clicker is coming here into the rut, as opposed to entering way out there and then just expecting that your bike can handle that type of pivot in. It's such a weird thing. And what it causes is he's going so fast and riding the bike for everything it has that when he does crash, it's bizarre looking crashes because they're just unrelatable. I mean, so weird. I was so devastated because he would have won that race, I think, right? I mean, he looked great. Just have to be, for him, I think the logic is, or the theory is that when he's in second, it seems to go well because he can gauge his speed based on watching the people in front of him. When he's in first, I think that he's a little impatient with the flow. I think when he gets in the flow, which it looked to me visibly from the outside in, it looked like he was in an amazing flow. When you're in that flow, your brain's supposed to shut off and you're supposed to kind of just operate on cruise control, and the pushing the limits of that, you shouldn't really be pushing the limits. You're kind of just, it should feel kind of easy. I feel as though he might get impatient in those moments when he's in the flow and think that he needs to pick it up beyond that and need to push more in small little spots, and he just doesn't. That's sort of my theory, but you know, it's anybody's guess. I have hope that he's remaining still positive and confident through this, which he's still very clearly kind of the fastest guy from week in, week out. Just have to slow, I mean, just straight up, just has to slow down a little bit in some of these situations. His technique is freaking fantastic. It's more beautiful to watch even than Jett and Hunter because he's a little tighter with the legs. He's a little taller too, I think. So it looks kind of a little cooler. He has the best technique in the sport. So this type of stuff, really, it just shouldn't be happening, right? Okay, there you have it. There's the breakdown, some of the moments from the race. Hopefully it gives you a little bit different perspective than maybe you've heard in the past, or than maybe what you thought for yourself when you watched this footage in person. Hopefully, too, what these videos do for you guys. And I always tell people at class this, when you begin to download more of this information, create more of an understanding, you actually begin to watch it in a completely different way, which is fun. Because when you really know what's going on and you can start to put yourself a little bit more accurately inside of these guys' heads, it makes watching it a completely different experience. So hopefully these videos start to educate you guys a little bit and make watching it on TV even more enjoyable. Subscribe to this channel if you guys can. If you want one-on-one private instruction for your own riding and your own footage and me to analyze your own riding, go to club.themotoacademy.com or subscribe inside of the app. It's on Google Play Store. It's inside of the Apple App Store. Go download the Moto Academy app. Rate it 5 stars for me if you would. Try it for the first month for free. I guess, why not? Use code MOTOFREE. Try the first month for free. I'm not supposed to give that out publicly, but whoopsie daisy. Go try it. And I think you guys will enjoy it. If you ride at all, if you have somebody that's a parent, sibling, wife, husband, that's sitting there filming you on the iPhone all the time, and you're like, what am I going to do with this footage? Send it into the Moto Academy. I'll send video responses back on how you can improve. It's quite cool. All right, there you have it. Seattle Breakdown. We'll see you guys for the next one, whatever that race may be. I have no idea. Okay. Toodaloo.